It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join News Director Paul David as he talks with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. As always, it is great to have you in studio today. It's Astronomers of the Verde Valley. JD Maddy's in studio.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Great to be here.
Been about a year for me to sit down with you, but I'm glad you're here. Astroverde.org is the website, astroverde.org. So I'm just going to throw it right to you because that's how we do things when JD Maddy's in studio. We want to know what's going on in our summer skies at night. So go ahead and take it away.
Well, we'll start off in the daytime first. Tell you a little bit about what's going on with the sun.
It's hot.
It's very, very hot. The sun's pretty much directly overhead now, midday, and that's why it is so hot. But actually, the sun is about as far away as it can get from Earth. So in the wintertime, it's much closer, but because it's lower on the horizon, we don't feel the direct effects of it like we do in the summertime. So right now, it's right at 94.5 million miles away, and towards its closest pass in the wintertime, it'll be at about 93 million miles away.
Wow, just a hop, skip, and jump.
Just the opposite, yes.
It literally is.
We're at a solar minimum right now. A couple of years ago, the sun started waning off of its sunspot cycle. And so we've been really waiting for the sunspot cycle to start up again, which will be solar cycle number 25. So back in April, and I think for our video viewers, we have a picture of that, and you'll be able to see it on the website as well. We have a picture of the sun, just absolutely beautiful. Sunspot shows up. I think it's visible there. Yeah, that big black chocolate chip on the surface of the sun. Very large, many times larger than Earth, even many times larger than our biggest planet, Jupiter. So it takes, for the sunspot cycle to occur, the magnetic flux in the sun changes. So it randomly can change in small areas like it did back in April. But that sunspot was healthy enough that it lasted over a month's time before it finally dissipated again. On the second picture, you'll see that it's kind of broken up a little bit, much smaller, and finally faded away. But if we were to take a picture now of the sun, it's just total blank.
What makes a sunspot on the sun?
Well, as the solar cycle starts to increase, what happens is the magnetic poles of the sun actually switch from North Pole to South Pole. To do that, the polar regions actually move across the equator. And as they move across the equator, it causes a lot of magnetic disturbance. And it's that magnetic disturbance that cools off regions around the equator of the sun, as well as in other spots, that cause the sunspots. So they're actually cooler regions of the sun.
Okay, and are we saying that determines when the sun starts to opposite cycle? Now, the days are really long here.
Correct.
So does that mean our days are going to start getting shorter now?
Well, yes, they will, but that has to do with the tilt of the Earth as it orbits around the sun. As it orbits around the sun.
But our days will start getting shorter and shorter and shorter here.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So when does the 25th cycle start? Do you know, or do we just have to wait?
We just have to wait.
What are the signs?
The signs are increased solar activity, increased amount of flares that we'll see. Now flares occur pretty much all the time, and we can see those around the edge of the sun with special solar telescopes. And then our space solar telescopes, they're way out in front of and behind the Earth in orbit, so they're looking across the top of the sun, or the face of the sun. What we're looking directly at, it's looking at the edge. So when they see a solar flare, a really big one, like what's called a coronal mass ejection, they can notify those people that own all the satellites up, orbiting Earth, say, okay, we have a coronal mass ejection heading towards Earth. We're predicting it to be at Earth this time. You better, shut down your computers and your satellites, because it will cause disturbances in the computers on the satellites, as well as knock out occasionally a really big one will knock out power grids. We've had a few over the last few years. Canada, I think one in California a while back. But
wow, that's amazing.
it can do some damage, especially with sensitive electronic equipment.
94 million miles away, and it's doing that down here.
Oh, yes.
That's amazing.
Yes, yes. Yeah, now the coronal mass ejections, light travels really quickly and can be here in 8.5 minutes from the sun. But coronal mass ejections, they take their time. They only travel at a leisurely, say, 1,000,000 miles an hour or so.
1,000,000 miles an hour.
So it'll take them 3 or 4 days to get here. That's why they have time to park their satellites, shut their computer systems off, and protect them. And even our astronauts and cosmonauts in the International Space Station have special little rooms that they crawl into if that coronal mass ejection is going to affect them. So they will have to go hide out for 20 or 30 minutes in these little protected rooms to minimize the radiation.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things happen with the sun. Now, as we start to pick up with solar cycle, sun cycle 25, we'll start to see more and more sunspots, more and more flares, more and more coronal mass ejections. Now, there has been some aurora activity over the past couple of months. And that is caused from bursts of energy, these coronal mass ejections coming by the Earth and causing the aurora borealis as well as the aurora australis, but not anything really that can occur with the sunspot cycle increasing.
Wow, that's the sun.
Yes.
Right there, and what it's doing right now.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Now you have to remember stars throughout our galaxy as well as other galaxies go through these same and similar types of cycles. And scientists now using space telescopes and a few ground-based telescopes are actually monitoring sunspot cycles on other stars, thousands or hundreds of light years away at least.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
So.
We have solar? We done with solar? Is that solar?
That pretty much covers it for the sun. It's pretty hot.
Yeah. Well, okay, that explains though. It is really hot right now.
Yeah,
so.
And that's because the sun is not closer to us in the summertime, but is just more directly pointing
over
at
us.
Yes.
And that's why we're hitting 106, 115 degrees and so on and so forth. Okay,
exactly.
all right.
Mm-hmm.
Lunar. We're going to lunar?
Yes,
well,
this week's the 50th week of the Apollo 11 landing. Of course, it's hard to get away from on the internet.
You see it everywhere.
See it everywhere, which is a pretty exciting moment.
Sure.
It's very seldom over the term of history that we've had such a well-documented occurrence, especially a scientific occurrence. We've heard about Galileo back in 1609 discovering the moons of Jupiter with his small little optical telescope. We've heard about that, we've read about it, it's well documented, but now documentation just goes to the extremes with videos and interviews and just the media is going kind of a little bit on the crazy side right now, but it's very, very interesting, very fascinating. I've been watching a lot of these specials on TV about how they did it, and it's just of course, I was in, let's see, where was I? I was in high school, just graduated high school at that time. So I was kind of in the middle of it as well as remembering when it happened and how it happened and all the hoopla up until that event.
Yeah, I know. I've seen Neil Armstrong's name for the last 2 weeks.
Oh, easily,
on Twitter,
yes.
like crazy, just the first step on the moon and everything else that took place there. Yeah.
And if you watch any of the specials that they've been having on TV, they're just quite fascinating, talking about, okay, who's going to be the first man to step on the moon? Who's actually going to the moon to start off with?
Just to think about doing that, I mean, what are you supposed to wear? How did we figure out that we can go there, land there, get out, walk around, pick some things up, get back in, and come back? That's an amazing feat.
That was, especially considering the technology that we had at the time and computers. They still relied on computers even back in the 60s to operate the spacecraft. However, I think it was there was actually a manual landing. They had everything set up right to land it, but I think over the last couple of minutes they actually took manual control of it, because once they got that close to the moon's surface, they could kind of see what's going on and make some minor adjustments so they didn't run into a big rock or something. So.
Amazing. We're going to take our first break, okay?
Sure.
Astronomers of the Verde Valley, JD Maddy is in studio today. Their website is astroverde.org, astroverde.org. This is Countywide. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Hi, this is Greg at Verde Solar Power. You know, Arizona has lots of clean, renewable sunshine, and we want to help you take advantage of it with our quality solar installations, and we offer to beat any written offer on a residential solar electric system. So bring us your electric bill and let us show you how solar power will save you money. We're located conveniently here in the Verde Valley and are dedicated to helping the valley go solar. So remember, the energy solution comes up every morning.
Hi, Todd of Todd's Appliances, your hometown appliance store. Studies have shown that when you buy from an independently, locally owned business rather than a box store, a lot more of your money stays local, therefore strengthening our community. From basic to high-end, we carry name brand appliances. Visit our store on Main Street in Camp Verde. With same-day, next-day service, we service what we sell what we service the least. ToddsAppliances.com, 567-3062.
Hi, I'm your host, Smokey Colbert, filling in for Smokey because after 75 years of...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Turns out there's much more to say. Nearly 90% of wildfires are caused by us humans being careless, dumping our used barbecue coals willy-nilly. Guess the song was wrong. We did start the fire. That's why I respect Mother Nature and her trees, whether coniferous or new car scented. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Welcome back to Countywide. JD Maddy here from the Astronomers of the Verde Valley. AstroVerde.org is the website. We're going to jump right back into the lunar discussion. The moon.
Yes.
The moon,
Talk about the moon. Well, the moon's full this week, so when you go out...
It's huge today.
And it's huge, yes, it's huge. Actually, technically, it's not as large as it sometimes is. Right now, it's roughly 247,000 miles away, and the moon can be as close as 218,000 miles away. So you hear about the supermoon, occasionally about the supermoon.
It felt super today when I was driving in.
It did feel super because it
filled my windshield. I remember that.
It's
yeah,
full.
It was very big. Yeah.
And it always looks larger when it's just rising or getting ready to set because you have a reference, something to reference it to. Here, the Red Rocks in Sedona or Mingus Mountain to reference it to. In cities and such, you'll have buildings and things to reference it to. But technically, it's not quite a micromoon, but pretty close to a micromoon. Right
but you were
now.
telling me before the show that it's a special kind of moon, a full moon in July, because it marks the signature of somebody's getting their antlers back.
Yes, it's called the buck moon.
The buck moon in July. I've never heard that before.
That's when the deer and elk start growing their their antlers. Their antlers.
Yeah.
And they get the little fuzz on them and everything.
Yeah,
so
I've seen some elk. I've seen the boys, and they are definitely starting to grow those back. So it's the buck moon.
And some cultures also call it the hay moon because that's basically when we start harvesting our hay. You know, we plant it in the spring and then harvest it throughout the summer.
Wow. Okay.
And of course, here in Arizona, we call it the scorcher moon.
The scorcher moon.
Because it's really hot.
Yeah, it did have a yellow tinge to it when I saw it this morning. That's for sure.
And that may be from some of the fires as it's getting ready to set or rising. That's what I
thought too. I thought, okay, it's probably going past smoke because they've got fires right now in the Prescott National Forest, Tonto, Kaibab, Coconino. So yeah, there's smoke all over the place. And usually is the summer months.
Yes. And some other things that go along with the moon is this is the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 landing, but many don't know, but here Arizona played a really, really big part of it, not only helping map the sites on the moon to land through the USGS in Flagstaff, but also observing the moon. They made very, very detailed drawings of the moon using the telescopes up at Lowell Observatory. And as well, the training, a lot of the astronaut training, not only for the lunar surface, but for the geology of the moon was right here in Arizona, particularly in Flagstaff and also here in Cottonwood. Just down 260 a little ways, there's a site out there, roughly, I think, about a square mile, where they cleaned it all off and got with a munitions team and planted charges all over this area and actually created a lunar landscape identical to the area that they wanted to land on the moon. So they did a lot of...
I saw pictures of the same thing done up in the flagstaff area,
Yes,
the cinder
yes,
pit area, where
yes,
they literally detonated the ground, and when they were done, it's amazing because it does look like the surface of the moon, at least from what you see with my naked eye when I look at the moon. But there's craters, and there's the astronauts and the lunar lander driving around and just, practicing. So,
well, in the wintertime, there's a little bit of snow up there. There's no snow on the moon, so then in the wintertime, they would come down to Cottonwood and do their training. And that was from... roughly 1962, maybe 1963 is when they created these lunar fields here, and then all the way up until the early 1970s.
Wow.
So
pretty
it's
neat.
Pretty fascinating history just right here nearby, next door.
We've got it going.
Yes.
We want to jump into Milky Way?
Sure.
Okay.
The summer Milky Way is now up after sunset. And if we do have a picture of the Sagittarius region and Scorpius region. So if you go out about an hour and a half after sunset and look to the southeast, you'll just see what looks like a cloud, but it's not. It's a river of stars that very, very near the center of the Milky Way. The center of the Milky Way is right off of Sagittarius, the teapot, or the archer, kind of in between Scorpius and Sagittarius. Scorpius is very visible right now, and it actually looks like a scorpion. You can see the head of the scorpion, a bright red star called Antares, which is the anti-Mars, or rival of Mars, sets in the middle. And then just to the left of that, you'll see another bright orb, and that's actually Jupiter.
And this is just the southeast. If we look just to the southeast, a couple hours after sunset.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And we're looking for the red star.
Yes.
A reddish colored star.
Yes, that's Antares.
Okay.
And then right next to that is Jupiter. Now, even binoculars can bring in the Galilean moons, the 4 moons that orbit around Jupiter. But it's always very, very nice to see. Telescopically, we can see the cloud bands, the storms on the moon, as well as the Galilean moons come in a little better through the telescope.
You guys gotta love this time of year. Is this the best time of year for you guys to be looking out there in the sky?
Well, it's the most comfortable time of year, even though it's hot in the
Sure.
Even though it's not, it's hot in the daytime. At night, it starts to cool off a little bit, and it's fairly pleasant. In the wintertime Milky Way there's still a lot to see, but sometimes those 20 and 30 degree temperatures can be a little rough setting out there under the stars.
Right.
So we enjoy the Milky Way. Now, I think maybe on the second picture, if he shows the second picture, you'll see right overhead is the Cygnus, the Swan region, as well as the Lyra region and such, and that's still a very, very thick stream of stars in the Milky Way.
You were telling me you can look for hours up there, just for days.
Yes, for days and days and days.
See all kinds of different things.
Yes, every little tiny green dot is a nebula cluster of some sort on the picture. And even with binoculars, even visually, you can, if you're in a nice dark area without any direct lighting,
which we have.
Yes, we have a lot.
Everyone's jumped on board with that one, for sure.
So you can just look up and you can actually visually see, without aid, clusters and such. Nebulas takes telescopes, but you can definitely see the clusters just visually with your eyes. Binoculars bring things in. Clusters really jump out at you. Nebulas are still a little tough in binoculars, but there are several people that have trained eyes that can see the nebulas as well through binoculars. Of course, telescopes bring it in, and just is amazing how much you can see in the Milky Way.
What is the Milky Way?
Well, the Milky Way comes from the Greek Gylos galacticos, which basically means spilt milk. The early viewers of the skies thought it appeared as someone had spilt milk across the sky, so they called it the Milky Way. It's as simple as that.
Simple as that. No, well, I love that. That's, it's always interesting to find out where these things come from. Why do we call it the Milky Way? So there we go.
Rooted back many, many years, though.
Yeah, somebody spilled milk across the sky, and there it is.
Yes, very simple.
Okay.
So, and let's see, where are we? Oh, and then as far as photo versus visual.
We have to take a break.
Oh, we have to take a break. Okay.
I know.
And we'll come back.
I know, the time went by already.
Yes.
Astronomers of the Verde Valley, JD Maddy in studio today. The website is astroverde.org. Stick around, Countywide, back in just a couple minutes.
Northern Arizona Thermal Imaging uses a state-of-the-art medical digital camera to take a picture and create a map of the body's infrared patterns, later interpreted by an MD specially trained in reading thermography. Northern Arizona Thermal Imaging is the leading medical imaging and proactive healthcare, detecting early danger signs years before other tools, finding early breast disease up to 8 years before mammography may detect it. Schedule a scan with Carol today. Northern Arizona Thermal Imaging. Say yes to thermography.
Northern Arizona Mortgage Corporation is your local choice for personalized home loans, and they've been doing it since 1986. They help home buyers obtain FHA, VA, USDA guaranteed rural housing, and conventional loans. From start to finish, they offer a safe in-person application process with licensed loan originators. Contact Shelley White Collier at northernArizonaMortgage.com or call 634-4251. Visit their office, located at 707 East Mingus, Suite 601, Cottonwood.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
Julie was always a voracious reader. She'd carry 2 novels on an airplane because she'd read one on a 3-4 hour ride. And at some point, I began to notice that she would read a page and couldn't remember what she had just read, and she'd have to go back and read it again.
I don't remember much these days after I read, but less does for me, and I love it.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've got just a few minutes left in the program. We got some special programs coming up that you can find out more, I would imagine, at astroverde.org.
Yes.
All this information will be posted there. We'll make mention of it, but you have a couple more photos.
Yeah, a couple more photos. I wanted to show you a photo of what's called the Lagoon Nebula.
Lagoon Nebula.
Yeah, it's a huge star-forming region.
Okay.
In the constellation Sagittarius.
Explosion of pink and white and orange and...
Oh, just all kinds of colors.
Beautiful.
And this is a stellar-forming region, a star-forming region.
You took that picture?
Yes, yes.
Wow.
And then you can see also the dark striations, the dust in the Milky Way and such. But through the telescope, because the eye is just not as sensitive as the CCD camera, when you look at it through a telescope, you'll see more of the stars and a little bit of the nebulosity when you look through the telescope.
Wow, that's such a difference.
Yeah, such a difference.
Such a difference.
But you can still see quite a bit of detail and such. The darker sight you have, the better you can see the nebulosity and such.
If I come to one of your star parties, am I going to see those bright colors?
No. The eye is just not that sensitive to especially in the red spectrum.
Okay.
So
how do you get that picture with all that color on there?
Well, the cameras are very, very sensitive, and you take a very long exposure.
Okay.
Typically, I take 30-second to 1-minute exposures. Some cameras take up to 10-minute to 20-minute exposures. Okay. And it is true color, but the eye's just not quite sensitive enough to perceive it.
But if I come to one of your events, I'm going to see some pretty darn amazing things.
Oh, exactly. There are some nebulas you can see a little bit of color in, and stars have all kinds of color as well.
Okay. So you got monthly meetings coming up. Your next monthly meeting is coming up on Saturday the 20th.
Correct.
So what goes on at the monthly meetings? Just kind of discuss what's going to be going on up in the
what's
sky.
going on in the sky. This week we have a presentation on some astrophotography A to Z from one of our club members.
Okay.
And that'll always be
They're
fun.
open to the public?
Yes, always open to the public, free of charge. And it's a Verde Valley Medical Center, Conference Room B at 6:30 p.m.
Okay, on the 20th. And then Sunset Crater, Saturday, July, we have a minute left. Sunset Crater, Saturday, July 24th up at the Flagstaff.
Correct.
Super dark sky.
Extremely dark
place
skies.
to go look.
Yes, it's a great place to view the stars from there.
Okay, so you got a thing going on there.
Yes.
And then that's one of your star parties.
Correct.
You have star parties where people show up with the telescopes. There's tons of them out there, and people come out and just enjoy looking through them.
Exactly. And then coming up on August 7th, on Friday the August 7th, we have the second annual Sedona Dark Sky Festival at Posse Ground Park. And there again, we'll be doing a presentation. In fact, they have a big 12-foot LED screen this year to project everything, a sound system and everything.
Yeah.
And then we'll have our telescope set up on the grass there, the nice cool grass. And I think they're even going to have a food vendor with drinks and food this year. So
awesome, awesome. Okay, and all this is available at astroverde.org. JD,
Oh,
as always, it's
yes.
enlightening to have you here. Thank you very much. Astronomers of the Verde Valley, astroverde.org. Thank you so much for watching and listening. That's today's Countywide, and we'll talk to you again next time.